Awesome. So let's take a look at 47. So 47 said, your parents have decided to install new carpet in your room, which is a rectangle and measures 10 feet by 12 feet. Okay, so I'm just going to draw that because I feel like seeing something kind of helps me visualize it a little bit better. So it's 10 feet by 12 feet, and we're getting new carpet. Okay. They want to spend at most $200. Okay. At the flooring store, carpeting is sold by the square foot. All right. So our cost is going to be dollars per square foot. So what does that mean I'm going to have to probably find for my carpet for my room? I haven't even figured out a game plan, but I'm thinking that I might have to do this. Matthew? Why? What do you think I need to find for my room if it's cost per square foot? I do. I'm going to end up at some point probably needing to find the area because this square feet means area. So I'm slowly formulating, Colin, sit up please. I'm slowly formulating in my brain an idea of what we might need to do as I'm reading through this. Okay, so let's keep going. How much money will your parents spend per square foot for carpeting? All right, so this is what we're looking to find. All right, so I highly recommend, and this is something that I was a little bit disappointed with some of you guys when it came to the last problem on the test. Remember the last test we had where it had that kite, right? And it was two triangles put together, and I wanted you to find the area of that whole thing. I guarantee you, everyone's eyes are over here, I guarantee you that if you had simply, and some of you did this and you did it well, this is what we had. And I want to find the area of the whole thing. Some of you just dove right into math without any thought of what you were doing. If I'm finding the area of this, write a game plan. That total area, well, what is this total area made up of? If I'm finding the area of that, what is that total area made up of? Brendan? Excellent. I have the area of the top triangle and the area of the bottom triangle. That is like, oh, okay, I can do that, right? What shape, so they're triangles. How do I find the area of a triangle? Brendan? Yep. Once I write this down and you remember that, how many of you guys like, yeah, I could do that? Why wouldn't you be able to do that? Right? You know the dimensions for that top triangle. You know the dimensions for that bottom triangle. All right, so game plans are super, super, super important and powerful. Very general game plans are really necessary for ones where there's a lot going on. Just wrap your head around, in general, what's happening here. All right, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say to myself, okay, what is my game plan? Well, first of all, I have parts equal to my whole. I don't want pieces and parts all over the place that you put together. I want you guys thinking about putting one game plan together and then breaking it down from there. I feel like when we do pieces and parts in places, we lose things. All right, so in this instance, what information is my whole? Cameron? What does that represent? Excellent. So this is the money to spend. Cameron, is that a maximum or is that a minimum that they want to spend? That's a maximum to spend. Okay. So now we're looking at, and this is the same, I mean the maximum isn't the same, but this is the same idea if this was an equation. This is our total money that we want to spend. Now we're figuring out our actual money spent. Those are our parts. Okay, so for me to figure out my money, I need to take my cost per square foot and I need to multiply it by my number of square feet. That's how I'm going to find my total cost. How many of you guys are cool with that? Okay. Now let's do our inequality part to this. because they have at most $200 to spend. So I know this is an inequality because it's at most. If this just said they have $200 to spend, what is the cost per square foot? That would be an equation because it doesn't say at most in it or at least. So look for those. All right, so someone tell me, what is my actual cost in relation to my maximum? Can it be more than it or less than it? Ada? It can be less than, because I don't want to spend more than. Can it be equal to? Absolutely. So now, what I don't know is my square foot. There's my x. I do know, well, to find my number of square feet, all right, I'm going to kind of make this a little bit more detailed, times, well, how do I find the area or the square footage of that carpet? Valentina? So my formula, right? Don't I have to do length times width? So somewhere you need to figure that out. Somewhere I need to see that formula. Whether you start here and off to the side, you say the area is equal to length times width, and you do that off to the side, I'm so fine with that, which is 120, and then you bring that back in here, that's fine with me. I do need to see that formula somewhere, and I need to see you finding the area somewhere. I am okay with you doing that off to the side and bringing it back into this game plan. So we end up with 120 times x is less than or equal to 200. If you want to do that formula right inside this game plan and do this right inside the game plan, that's fine with me. But here is my entire game plan of how to solve that. Yes? Yes. Yep. Length times width, base times height, same thing. All right, and then I would go ahead and solve this further. Divide both sides by 120. You will have a calculator for your test, by the way. All right, so I have x is less than or equal to 1.67. What did x represent again? What did x represent again? Amanda? Okay, so since it's cost per square foot, can I leave it as 1.67 or do I have to round it? Like, do I need to round that to 2 or can I leave that? Yeah, it's money, right? It is possible for something to be $1.67 per square foot, isn't it? So for this, we would definitely leave it. If that was people, I would have to round it, right? We talked about that yesterday. So AJ, you're sitting still and you're kind of paying attention to what we're doing? Okay, I'm just not sure why you're rustling around and doing stuff. So if I was to answer this, I would say the cost per square foot could be at most $1.67 is what I would write. All right, what else can I do for you guys? Patrick? 43. All right. And then I do have to move on. If you have more questions from the homework, please come see me because I have one more new thing to get to. So 43 said that I have a negative 3.9c is less than or equal to 43.68. Is this the one you're talking about? Yeah. All right. So I need to divide both sides by a negative 3.9 because the coefficient is that negative 3.9. When I do that, my negative 3.9s turn into a 1. So I have 1c. All right, I'm going to use my calculator, 43.68 divided by 3.9. And I end up, what's wrong, Alex? Okay, can I finish this? Okay, so keep your hand down until I'm done. So if I do that division, I end up with a negative 11.2. Patrick, our coefficient was negative, so that means that we have to flip the inequality symbol. Okay? I don't know what to tell you. You've got to pay attention to what that is. Alex, what do you have? Yes. See, the problem with checking your answer on this is that you can't put that value in you gotta sit still. It's very distracting when I'm hearing constant clicking and moving. Just sit still. It's very hard to check inequalities to make sure you did this answer correctly, because this is not an equation. So what you can do, you can put that number back in there to see if this side equals this side. Just let me finish. Put your hand down. All right, so if I was to put that back in, I should get, if I do 120 times 0.167, I should get something pretty close to 200. I had to round that. So you can check that you got that number right. But checking these equations, we usually check the shading when we're graphing. All right, but you can check them just like you would an equation to make sure that that math is correct. Okay? Does that help you? Well, don't you have to round that? Of course, I got 1.66 as well. This was 1.66666666. It kept going. Don't I have to change that into money? Okay, so you're saying the rounding part. Oh, I love that you're asking about the rounding part. That's a great thing to be questioning. I rounded it up to 1.67. So you're right. Now I understand what you're asking me. When I put that back in, did we go over? So what should I have written? Yeah, that's a great point. I like that you're telling me that. You're right. I've got to remember that I can't go over that whole thing. All right, so this should be 1.66 because 1.67 makes me go over. Thank you for pointing that out. It's a great thing to remember. So we do have to think about when we're rounding how we need to round it, and if it meets the qualifications or it doesn't with an inequality. Great point. All right, get your notes out, please. All right, so this is our last section. All right, so we've gone through, we've just finished one-step inequalities. All right, in our progression through equations, we started with one-step equations, then we went to two-step equations, then we went to multi-step equations, right? So now we're following the same progression with inequalities. So we are in our last section, which is 3.6. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to solve multi-step inequalities. Now, I don't want you guys being freaked out with this because it literally is exactly the same thing as equations. All right, the only difference is that you have a maximum or minimum. We still always do parts equal to our whole for story problems. And when we get to the end with that one-step equation, that's the only time we have to worry about flipping the symbol, is at the very end where we just have literally a one-step equation, all right, with multiplication in it. All right, so let's just go ahead and dive into this. All right, I'm going to show you, we're going to go right into a story problem. All right, so this is example 1 from page 151. I'm going to show this to you. I'll grab it. Thank you. I rolled away, didn't it? Okay. It's underneath there somewhere. There it is. Okay. So here is our problem. Okay. Your school soccer team is trying to break the school record for goals in one season. Your team has already scored 80 goals this season. The record is 138 goals. With 10 games remaining, how many goals on average does your team need to score per game to break the record. So write this information down. All right, has a little bit more to it than we've done before, but I want to walk through this and we can take it apart. Always do parts equal to your whole. So write the information down and identify the whole, and then we're going to figure out what parts make it up. Now, I definitely want you doing a general game plan first. Don't do a detailed one yet, because I want you wrapping your head around, in general, what are we talking about here? Okay. To break the record. All right, so let me show you what I have here. All right, we have a record of 138 goals. We already have 88 goals. You have 10 games left. We want to find the number of goals you need to score per game in the games you have left to break the record. Okay, so let's just put this in a very general game plan perspective. What is my whole here? What information is my whole here? Alex? Yep, so I'm going to say previous record goals or something. Okay. I'm going to worry about that being a maximum or minimum later. Okay. What makes up this year's goals? Cullen? And the goals for the games left? Yeah. So goals already made plus the goals for remaining games. How many of you guys agree with that as a very general game plan? Okay. So start with that, use common sense. Now I need to break that down. How can I find, I know how many I already made. How can I find my goals for the remaining games? AJ? Hang on one second. So I have goals per game. My hand's not doing what my brain's telling it to do. Goals per game. Okay. Okay. Times number of games. All right. That's how I find my remaining, right? And I'm going to add to that the goals we already have. Okay. And then we have previous record. How many of you guys are cool with that game plan? Okay. Now, what does ours actually have to be to meet this? We want ours to be higher than the record or lower than the record? Amanda? Higher. Do we want it equal to the record? Why? Exactly. We want to beat it. All right. So there's my X, just like AJ said. So we already have 88 goals, plus, well, we have 10 games left, times X is greater than 138. So this is a multi-step equation. It's a two-step equation. You guys all know how to solve a two-step equation. What's the first thing I need to do to start solving this equation? Or it's an inequality, but we do the same thing as an equation. Valentina? I don't have like terms to add. That means that I would have like terms on the same side to add. How do I solve this? Cameron? Excellent. I'm going to add a negative 88 to both sides. So I have 138 minus 88. And I end up with 10x is greater than 50. Danny, now what? Excellent. So x is greater than 5. What does that mean? What does that mean, x is greater than 5? Ada? Excellent. Exactly. Your team must score more than 5 games, 5 goals per game, to beat the record. Okay? Okay, so these are multi-step equations. They're 2-step equations. All right, you might have some that are more than 2-step equations. You might have a couple steps, but you guys have done these when it comes to equations versus inequalities. The only difference is at that very end, it's only at this point right here. Everyone look at the board. It's only at this point right here there's a difference, that you say to yourself, is my coefficient negative or positive? Do I need to flip the symbol? That's the only difference, is at that place. Do you guys understand? You guys cool? There is another story problem that we were not able to go through in our homework. Example 3, it might be a good idea to review that real quick. But again, these story problems are exactly the same ones that you've already done in equation. The only difference is it's an inequality. Okay? You guys cool? Okay. You guys can go. Odds go first real quick, and then we'll get evens out.